Here in Nottingham 117 years ago, Albert Ball was born. Son of a self-made man who went on to be Lord Mayor of Nottingham, Albert had quite a happy childhood. He was a bit of a daredevil by all accounts, tinkered with engines, fired his air rifle in the garden, and generally had a good life. Then the First World War broke out. Albert was assigned in a training role to the Sherwood Foresters. He wrote to his parents to say, "I've just sent 5 boys to France and I hear they'll be in the firing line on Monday. It's just my luck to be unable to go."
Ball, like most young men at the time, wanted to see some action, so he signed up for private flying lessons, often leaving the house at 3 in the morning to get them in before his military duties. He didn't find flying that easy to start with, but he eventually got his pilot's wings and joined the newly formed Royal Flying Corps in February 1916, whereupon he was posted to northern France, which is where we're now off in this fabulous brand new Morgan three-wheeler. A small open cockpit two-seater powered by a thumping great Harley V-twin might not seem the obvious choice for a 300-mile autumnal road trip from Nottingham to northern France, but there is a very good reason why we chose it. One that we're certain Albert Ball would have approved of. Morgan three-wheeler founder, HFS Morgan, launched the original three-wheeler at the 1910 Olympia Motor Show in London. And within 4 years, the brilliantly engineered little Morgan had clocked up 10 world records in speed events, 24 reliability trials gold medals, and it had clocked up numerous wins at circuits like Brooklands and others across Europe. In his day, the original three-wheeler was the must-have lightweight two-seater, and dashing young men like Albert Ball were desperate to get one. So in the spring of 1917, when he was on leave, he popped over to his local Morgan dealer and picked up his specially commissioned Grand Prix-bodied Morgan three-wheeler. And by all accounts, he was absolutely delighted with it. He said it was the closest thing to flying without leaving the ground. And do you know what? A century later, I think he's still right.
Comparing a car like the Morgan three-wheeler to an aircraft, it isn't new. I mean, companies like Saab and Spiker, they've been doing this kind of stuff for years, but with Morgan, it isn't the usual marketing twaddle. If you compare the Morgan three-wheeler to something like Albert Ball's Newport 17 aircraft that he flew, it has roughly the same weight, about 560 kilos, the same power, around 115 bhp, and therefore the same power to weight ratio. And I think they even have roughly the same top speed. And I can imagine it is just as exhilarating.
The Morgan Motor Company was actually one of the first motor companies to get up and running after hostilities ended. Partly because, the Morgan three-wheeler is such a simple design. The first car that they launched, the first sports model that they launched, was called the Aero, in honour of Albert Ball, the brave young aviator. And that's a tradition that Morgan continues to this day, with its flagship models, the Aero Coupe and the Aero Super Sports.
what's this like to drive? Well, the front tyres are interesting. I think they're bike tyres. They don't seem to have a lot of lateral grip. And the turning circle is huge, so you really do need a lot of forward thinking, and you need to be quite responsive too. It's the only vehicle I've driven recently that's really susceptible to side winds. The fat tyre on the back isn't quite fat enough to handle all the power that we've got, which makes it even more fun. Albert was a bit of a shy character. He lived in a hut that he built on the runway. He did a lot of his own aircraft mechanics and often didn't wear a goggles or a helmet. He played the violin and enjoyed gardening. You could say he wasn't a typical hero. Soon though, he had his first kill, bringing down a reconnaissance aircraft in a Bristol Scout. He switched to flying Newports and his tally rose to 7, but he was well aware of his own mortality. He wrote home to his parents to say, "Men tons better than me, going hundreds every day." He was tasked with dropping a French agent behind enemy lines. Yet on the way there, he couldn't resist taking pot shots at various German military installations.
There's a machine gun emplacement out there.
Yeah, so by the time he got there, he'd really given the position away, and the French agent refused to get out of the aircraft. Can't say as I blame him. He fitted a special spinner. He painted a special design on the spinner of his aircraft to help identify his aircraft to others so they could help spot his kills. Shortly afterwards, he was awarded the Military Cross. On his 20th birthday, Albert Ball was promoted to captain, and his tally rose to 17 kills. A month later, and it stood at 31. The war on the ground was a bloodbath too. The Battle of the Somme just finished with hundreds of thousands killed. And the British military really needed a hero. And that hero inadvertently became Albert Ball. He was mobbed at home on the streets in Nottingham as a hero. He was mentioned in the newspapers and the media, and he really didn't like the attention. And I guess you could say he unwittingly became Britain's first war hero. Ball's squadron upgraded from Newports to SE5s, yet he actually preferred his old aircraft and received special dispensation to fly it occasionally. And the kills still kept coming. He downed 7 German aircraft in one 5-day spell alone. But the war was getting to him. He wrote to his father to say, "I really am beginning to feel like a murderer."
7 hours after leaving Albert Ball's memorial statue at Nottingham Castle, we finally arrive here in the outskirts of Annulin, a sleepy market town 10 miles southwest of Lille.
On the 7th of May 1917, not far from here, Albert Ball and his squadron of SE5 fighters ran into some German albatrosses, one of them piloted by the brother of the infamous Red Baron, Lothar von Richthofen. In the ensuing dogfight, von Richthofen's tank was punctured and he was forced to make a landing as he ran out of fuel. As Ball swooped down to investigate, he became disorientated in the cloud. Time was up for Albert Ball.
Ball's plane crashed in this field, which is a potato field today. He was pulled from the wreckage by a young local girl and he died in her arms. He was aged just 20 years old. The German propaganda machine at the time claimed that von Richthofen had shot him down, but if you look at the records, it was a completely different aircraft. In loving memory of Captain Albert Ball, VC, DSO, 2 bars, MC, Military Cross.
Have you seen this on the back? This plot of land is given for the free use of French soldiers by Sir Albert Ball on condition that this stone is protected.
Didn't his dad buy this field?
He did.
After his son's death?
Yeah, and apparently there used to be 2 stones. One here where one end of the aircraft ended up and one a little bit further away. But he bought the plot of land and put the stone down in order that people remember his son. I think it's quite touching. I think this is more touching than the military graveyard, as important as that is, because this is the actual spot where he met his end, in a potato field.
It's quite bleak, isn't it? Because Captain Albert Ball died behind enemy lines, he was interred here in a German cemetery. At one time there were 23 other British soldiers within this cemetery, but after the war they moved those to an Allied cemetery nearby. However, at Albert Ball's father's request, Captain Albert Ball remained here. The RFC erected this monument and his grave remained undisturbed.